I'm Scott Allen Miller. It is the 3rd of August, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life living in Leon, Nicaragua. Today, we are going to be talking about whether or not you should go beach hopping out here on the Pacific Coast of Nicaragua. We're going to get to that right after the bump.
It's a beautiful day at the beach. I was losing my mind for about a week until I could call you up. I'll meet you at the waterline. Birds are flying up above. We both need a little.
So yesterday I came out and recorded in this beautiful field that had a remote tree and just lots of open space, and I think it worked out pretty well. I haven't had a chance to go back and edit that video yet. Those of you who are watching, you'll notice I'm in the same hat and same shirt. That's because that was 10 minutes ago and I haven't left yet. So I was out here doing a little bit of filming, and the guy who actually oversees this property came out and is like, what are you doing out here? Came out with his pit bull and he's like, what's up? And I'm like, oh, sorry, the field is perfect and it's a great spot, and you know, I'm in the area and I'm YouTubing, and I just wanted a nice, beautiful spot to record. And he's like, oh, and I brought up my YouTube channel onto my phone. He's like, have at it, knock yourself out. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. So now this spot that I wasn't 100% sure would be cool, I even mentioned that because that happened in between the two videos. And he found me because I was under the tree, but then I moved to the hedgerow, and in moving to the hedgerow, I was more line of sight with the caretaker's cottage, and he was like, oh, so he popped out. But that's great that now he knows who I am, so coming out here and recording, as long as they cut the field, will be perfect. He said sometimes they grow corn, so that would be awful to try to record, but when it's low like this in the wet season, it's going to be really nice that I have a spot to get some nice outdoor footage for you guys that isn't just my same thing over and over again. I love having a spot like this that's accessible, and I really like having one where I know they're not going to get upset that I'm there and they know they're coming. Like if I do anything, they're like, oh, we really don't want you here today. They know they can come talk to me because he knows who I am now. So we introduced ourselves and all that. So that was fantastic. Today, I'm going to talk about beach hopping for a number of reasons. One is people do ask about it, so that's a really good one. And that question specifically came up, but we just did this private tour where we took a couple up and down the beaches on the Pacific Coast, and that kind of triggers other people to think, well, maybe that's something I want to do. And of course, Paul and I did that 3 years ago, or almost 3 years ago, when we were scouting out our property here before making our final decision to buy in Las Piñitas here in the Leon area, which many of you know, but for those who don't, yeah, we did that. We spent many days doing that. So why might you want to do it, and what's leading you to that, and is it something that might make sense for you? So we have basically 3 sets of people on this channel. There's others, but there's 3 major groups. One is people who are interested in Nicaragua, but have no intention of coming here, so it just doesn't matter for you particularly. Then there's a group who's coming here for vacation. Maybe you're looking at something longer term. Maybe someday you're like, I could consider staying there, but you're really looking at it from a vacation-y standpoint. That's the second group. And then the third group is looking not for vacation, but looking at where they want to live. So the first group we can ignore, not that we don't care about you guys. Thank you for being here. And I know a few people are here just because, like, I do travel content and other stuff, and just like hanging out with me and having your coffee in the morning, and that's fantastic. I love that people do coffee with me in the morning. It's like my favorite thing. So that, like, awesome that you're here. For the people who are coming for vacation, we're gonna get to you. For the people who are coming because you're looking at a place to live, and this is what we did for the tour, this is why Paul and I were here. I think with this group, you're forced, if you're serious about living on or near a beach, I think you're forced to do the beach hopping for 2 reasons. One is you need to figure out which beach you want to be on, and 2, you do want to know what it is like getting to and from the beaches, because that's some important information that a lot of people don't have. Until you've lived in Nicaragua, I think it's really hard to picture what it is like going to and from the beaches, and that because Nicaragua is such a culture of not living at the beach, that it throws people off. They're just so sure that Nicaragua must have its centers of population closer to the water than they actually do, that it's confusing. And when people get here and they're like, wait, how do I get to the beach? How do I get to the next beach? That's nuts. Yes, it is. And that is why Nicaragua's putting in the amazing new, I don't know if it's amazing, should be amazing, new coastal highway, the Pacific Coast Highway, that's going to run, in theory, all the way up the Pacific Coast, skipping the obvious nature preserves but connecting the beaches together. Small bits of this already exist, but they're very small, such as Las Bonitas and Ponaloya are already joined together, and Tránsito, Valero, Hermosa, Miramar, Puerto Sandino, they're all connected together. So there's pieces, but they don't connect from one to another. Salinas Grandes is completely abandoned out there in between the two, for example. And are they going to put bridges over some of the reserve areas? I have no idea what they're planning on doing, but they want to make it so that the beaches are more accessible to each other, so that those of you who are here on vacation and want to move from beach to beach can do so quite easily. But for those who are looking to live here, yes, if beach is your thing, you're going to have to do this. And you're going to have to schedule a bit of time for it, because just like in this tour we just did, it takes quite a bit of time to move from beach to beach. Now, a few, like I said, are connected to each other. If you want to look at Las Bonitas, but you're not sure, maybe you want to look at Ponaloya, you can walk those in 10 minutes. So that's not the problem. But when you want to get to Corinto or Salinas Grandes, you're looking at hours of travel for something that looks like it's just a few minutes away on a map. That's what's going to catch people off guard, and that's where you really need to be aware of how that's going to affect you in your travel plan. So let's say you wanted to make a travel itinerary and you really wanted to research the beaches. You don't necessarily need to stay overnight in every beach. You don't need to hit every possible thing, but reasonably you want to pop in and spend a little bit of time, take some pictures, walk around, maybe just for 30 minutes at every one of the viable beaches up and down the coast. How long would you need to give for that? Remember, Nicaragua is a pretty small country, and the Pacific Coast is the small coast. I would still plan on something like a week. For real. You need at minimum 2 days and probably 3 just to do the Rivas beaches, mostly because the ones south of San Juan del Sur, immediately north of San Juan del Sur, and then the far north like Popoyo, each are so far apart that you're going to need time to see them, move from one to another, and then go way out to the highway and come back to get between them. That's going to eat up a lot of time. Now, you could, like in the tour group that we had, simply go to 1 or 2 beaches down there, get a feel for the area, and then skip many of them. That can work if you're able to rule out, well, I don't like this access or this city that is our access city, right? The beaches come in, I mention this every time, the beaches come in groups by the city that supports them. Rivas in the south, Didiambra, known as the Carazo beaches, in the next layer up. Managua has its beaches after that, then León, then Chinandega in the north, and the northern half of the Chinandega beaches are known by the subset city of El Viejo, and they actually have, so Chinandega has like the industrial beaches for the most part, and El Viejo has the residential beaches in the far north and west. So that is how it is divided by beach zone, more or less. And that southern beach zone in Rivas, everybody has to use Rivas as your city. If you go to those beaches, fall in love with those beaches, but then say, oh, but I can't handle Rivas as my support city for whatever reason. It's a nice city. I haven't spent a lot of time there, but it seems like a really nice place. And I really want to go do some videos there. We just drove through there a couple times, 4 times in the last week. And every time I say, you know, I feel like we're missing out not spending time in Rivas. It's a really lively, small city. And it seems like it would be a lot of fun to go out and get that southern Nicaraguan culture, that Guanacaste culture of going out in Nicaragua. Because we do the same thing when we go up to like the mountains, go to Matagalpa or Esteli to go out. Like, it's so much fun going to a different zone and just getting that feeling. And Managua and León, like, it's all very different. And so I really want to do that. But maybe Rivas isn't your speed for whatever reason. You could either choose to drive much farther and make Managua your main city for you, which would be a huge pain, or you need to choose beaches closer to another city. So you may be able to rule out huge swaths by simply saying, I don't want Managua to be my base, which is the most likely one to rule out, or I don't want Rivas to be my base or whatever, or I don't want the south because it's too far from the airport. Like, you can rule things out, but you can probably rule those out ahead of time. But if you have not ruled things out, if you need to go beach to beach and say, I don't care what my support city is, I don't care about distance from the airport, I don't care about distance from the Costa Rican border, I just want the perfect beach, and all those other things are just once in a while, but my everyday, I want to get up, I want to have the perfect view, I want to have the perfect fishing, you'd be surprised how many people, that's the thing. For me, I'm not a fisher guy, right? Fisherman. We're going to call them fisher guys from now on. So I know a few fisher guys, right? Earl, that we just did this trip with, he is really interested in what his fishing potential is going to be. And Frank Javier, who is here now, right, one of his favorite things, every time he's talking about what do you look forward to, I want to go fishing. I got to get out to the water and go fishing. That's, for a lot of people, that's a really big thing. So where you're going to have your sunset, where you're going to stick your fishing pole, where you're going to grill your fish, maybe what your local bar is going to be like. These things might be the big factors that really determine things for you, and in doing so, you may need to go to every little beach and sit on the beach and walk from house to house and look out and see what would the sunset look like. What is the local bar like? What is the fishing scene? Do I have to fish from a boat? Can I stand on a rock? Can you do it from the shore? Do I do it from a cliff? Like, there's all those questions you may have to answer, and you can't do that by big blocks. You have to go to individual beaches and make that determination. Great example of that in the Carazo beaches, which is up from Rivas. The next group of beaches is Carazo, with their support city being Diriamba. In those beaches, the northern one is La Boquita, and La Boquita, which I love, is a cliff beach. Your beach is just some rock with a little bit of sand way down below you. If you live there, you live high on a ridge. But if you go down just one major beach to the south in Huehuete, it is completely the opposite, and the entire village sits right at sea level, and your sand is very smooth, no rocks, going out a long way. Completely different beach experiences, but only maybe 10 minutes drive apart on the same road. So you would need to go look at both of those and get completely different results. It's very rare that someone would be interested in one and also the other. Sure, you may just be a beach lover and be like, I don't care, as long as the ocean's there, I'll take anything. Okay, but if you were going to pick one, it would be really clear to most people that one would be the winner and one would not. But which one for you could easily be either one. They're both fantastic in completely different ways. So getting from the Rivas beaches to the Carazo beaches alone is a multi-hour experience. I believe at a minimum, you would need 2 hours to go from the nearest beach in Rivas to the nearest beach in Carazo. It is just a long way. And the reason is because you have to drive around a preserve. You have to drive out to the Pan American Highway quite some way away. You have to drive through several cities. You have to drive through the northern portion of Rivas. You have to cross into Granada. You have to cross through southern Granada, through Nandaime, the city of Nandaime. We will then come into southern Carazo. You have to drive all the way to central Carazo. You have to go through Jinotepe. You have to go through Dolores. You have to go through Diriamba, and that's a metro area between them of about 150,000 people. So it's like crossing a good-sized city, and it's kind of sprawling, and you're going the long way through it, and you end up winding through Diriamba, and you finally get out, and then you have quite a long drive, 45 minutes to an hour, through beautiful rolling national park style countryside to get out to the coast. And when you get to the coast, you're not at the beach. You're at a T in the road, and you got to choose to go to the northern beaches or the southern beaches of Carazo. And so you still have 5 minutes or so before you get to something. It is a long drive. And so if you were doing that in the middle of hopping beaches in a day, yeah, you can go from Rivas to Carazo in a day. You could see one in Rivas in the morning and one in Carazo in the evening, but you're not going to get very much time to move from beach to beach within those zones in any reasonable way. Something I really want to know, when I'm doing these videos, where do the spiders come that love to crawl all over my cameras? Almost always when I'm doing these, I end up with a spider crawling on my camera, but you got to understand, my camera is on a tripod. And the tripod base is not that big. I'm not like on a big, huge tripod. It's a pretty small, light one. That's why I'm kind of looking down at you, because it doesn't go up to my eye level. And it's got this really delicate, long carbon fiber extension pole. It's probably not carbon fiber, but I'm just going to say that it is. And then the camera mounts on top. So this spider has to have climbed all the way up this and made its way to the top of the camera. Now it's on top of the camera going, what have I done? So if you're going to hop from beach to beach, you have to allow a lot of time. Some of the beaches are close to each other, but then there'll be more in Carazo that are not on this particular road. And if you want to see them, like Grand Pacifica, which I believe is in Carazo, you have to drive way out and around. So you're talking about 1 or 2 hours of driving, again, just to get there. And it's only that fast if the roads are good. In some cases, like Salinas Grandes or Transito, the roads going to those beaches are incredibly poor. And so you may look at a map and say, well, that's only a few miles. But in practice, you may find that it's 30 to 60 minutes just to get down that stretch of highway for that one beach. And then, of course, you need time once you're on a beach to go around and see it. And some of them, like Transito, actually take place over a pretty good-sized area. And so you're stuck in a situation where you can't just show up, pop out, look around, and go. You have to drive around town, find different beach access spots, and check out different areas to really get a feel for it, or else you're going to miss some major potential opportunities. Now, if you can rule it out because of the road, you don't need to do that. But if you don't rule it out because of the road and you get there and you go, well, I like this, I'm not sure if the fishing's good. Well, you got to go hunt because you may have half a mile to go down the beach and have different fishing down there. So you got to play with those things and spend some time. The same thing happens in Leon. We have multiple places, at least 3 different places to come out to the beaches on the road with probably more than an hour transit between each of them. The northern ones, you have to go through Leon to get to and from them. Salinas Grandes in the middle has a horrible access road. And in the south, you have some that have good roads and some that don't, like Transito. And some are hidden. You have to spend some time searching for entrances. Like Hermosa, I don't even know where the entrance to that beach is. I've been past it multiple times. I can't find it. People on the show are like, no, I know where it is. You just read, that was it. Like, oh, really hard to find. So you have to be ready for all these things. There's a lot of searching around, a lot of driving. And if you need gas or anything, a lot of times you're in areas that are pretty remote because you're just going around beaches. So that can add a challenge as well. And as you get farther north, it only gets worse because this is the populated area in the middle. Carazo, Managua, and Leon are the heavy, dense population. And that first beach, Corinto in Chinandega, lots of people. But the moment you're past Corinto, you're into the wastelands of northwestern Nicaragua. Once you're into Chinandega's northern extent and El Viejo beaches, you're talking about really large portions of beach with almost no beaches on them or no populated beaches. So you may be working really hard on very remote roads to get to really tiny places that are very far from each other. So to be prepared. And then, of course, you can go around the volcano in the north, and technically there's some beaches on the Bay of Fonseca, which I've never been up to because back when I went up there, the car couldn't get through. Now it can. I want to go up there and get a lot of filming up there. I think it'll be really cool for you guys. But there's a whole section up there that you may need to include as well. We don't normally talk about it, but that actually does have some potentials up there. And none of this are we addressing the East Coast, which is so much harder and so much bigger, but very few people are seriously talking about that. So we don't normally think of that as part of this equation, but it is something to think about. The spider is now on top of my boom mic, right at the front of it, staring straight at me as if it's going to hop onto my face. It's pretty funny, but he's definitely checking me out. Now, if you are a tourist and not actually looking at moving to Nicaragua and you don't have to do all this for logistical reasons, the really easy answer is, in general, no. You do not want to beach hop. That is not an activity that people do here. It's not like a pub crawl where you're like, oh, I went to this beach, I just want to go up to the next one, see what it's like, and go up to... That sounds fun, and it could be if the beaches were easy to get from one to another, and that's why the Pacific Coast Highway is being constructed, because they want to make that a vacation thing that people can do and spread out the activity along the coast, because right now it's so heavily isolated. There's San Juan del Sur with a ton of activity, Popoyo with a little, Las Bonitas with a bit, and then these little bits at other things, like really, really tiny bits. You almost never get to go somewhere and get like a big crowd, and then those crowds end up moving back to the cities and hitting other infrastructure. They want to get people more on the beach because that's where the tourism business is, and it will allow for a boom in tourism while also allowing the main cities to focus on their traditional infrastructure and jobs without handling the tourist. It really has a lot of potential for the country economically, and it could be really good for tourists who are coming here. Like, you'll just make your experience better. So there's a lot of potential. We're very hopeful that the environmental impact will be considered well and be minimal, and that we can, and it may actually, it probably won't, but it may actually reduce environmental impact by cutting the amount of traffic that goes on in the country dramatically. Maybe. We'll see. There's a lot of factors that need to be considered, and hopefully they are. In general, Nicaragua was pretty good about considering environmental factors, and the only time that they've ever taken flack for not considering them was for something that wasn't really happening anyway, so maybe they did. As a tourist, it's really important that you pick your beach or beaches that you want to go to and stick to them. Of course, you can change when you get here, but you're not going to want to base in one beach and just go around hitting other beaches. If you're in San Juan del Sur, there are shuttles that take you to nearby beaches, but they're considered San Juan satellite beaches and not like other beaches. A lot of people just refer to those other beaches as San Juan, which is confusing because people say, oh, I'm going to go to San Juan del Sur and go surfing. And you're like, you know there's no surf in San Juan del Sur, right? Like, that's not a thing. It doesn't exist there. And they're like, yeah, there's like all these surf things. And you're like, oh, that's 3 beaches away. Like, okay, here we refer to beaches are beaches. Like Las Bonitas and Ponaloya, they're 2 separate things. They're kind of combined. If you were a tourist and went to them, you'd be like, how do you people tell them apart? Because there's rocks in between? Yeah, they're like, yeah, one pile of rocks, it takes you 30 seconds to climb over it. That's not a divider between beaches. All right, but that's what it's like. For us, it's one thing Tourists sometimes are like, well, I'm going to go to San Juan and take the shuttles around to other things. Like, okay, that's a bit different. You're never going more than, say, 30 minutes from San Juan del Sur, and you can do that and have it make sense. And if you're in Las Bonitas, you can go to Ponaloya. But if you're in Las Bonitas and you're thinking, well, Salinas Grandes is right there, or Las Brasiles is just here, or Corinto is just here, and they look really different, and they are. All four of those, super different. Ponaloya is much like Las Bonitas, but the others super different. Each one represents one or two. Something's crawling around behind me in the hedgerow. 1 or even 2 hours, depending on traffic, of travel to get from place to place. That's a huge impact to your day. So even if it's just 1 hour, right? If you get up in the morning and you do breakfast in Las Bonitas and you're like, I'm going to go to Salinas Grandes this afternoon, if you have a vehicle, because a taxi's going to be terrible for this, and it's an off-road vehicle, and you're able to do it, you're looking at easily an hour. And when you get there, what are you going to do? It's just an empty beach. There's no restaurants, there's no things, there's no activities. So you just have more beach. And then, so if that takes you, let's say you leave at 11, now it's noon, then you get a little bit of time to explore. Now you've got to get back. Now you're exhausted, you spent all this time, and it's hours lost, and all you really did was the logistics of moving between beaches and go, yep, that's another beach. You know, you could take a picnic and like have some guaranteed time. You could take beers with you in a cooler. You could do things to kind of guarantee you'd have something to do. But in general, it's going to be a lot of wasted effort. And that's not normally something you want to do on a vacation. Yeah, it's interesting to drive and see another beach, and driving through the countryside of Nicaragua is interesting because it's different than very likely anywhere you're coming from. And just getting to piece together, what does this beach look like? That stuff's interesting. I love it. I do this for you guys. I drive from place to place and film the most remote, out of the way places that no one would ever think of going. That's fun for me. I really do enjoy it. But I'm not on vacation, right? Like, that is my activity. It's like, what am I doing this afternoon? All right, I'm going to chill out. I'm going to go check out a new location. I'm going to head out to El Sauce and see what it's like. I'm going to check out the church. I'm going to check out the park. I'm going to hit up a restaurant, maybe go to a bar, right? And that's fun for me. That is my activity. But if your activity is I want to see beaches and you're spending all of your time driving, you're going to be really disappointed. It's not going to be a good way to spend your vacation. And same thing if you're going up to Las Brasiles here. It's like, well, you got to drive for 15 minutes and then you got to wait for a boat, and then the boat's for 10 minutes, and then you got to take a horse ride. It's going to add up, and you're going to be like, wow, now I'm in a remote location. There's only 1 or 2 things to do here. Mostly it's just get lunch and have a beer, look at the same ocean that I had back there. Ugh. What if you went to Corinto? Okay, Corinto is quite different. Big fancy restaurants, but you're also in a big industrial port with container ships coming in, which is interesting on its own if you've never seen a container port. I suppose you can go hang out with the longshoremen and experience that, no problem. But chances are that's not what you're going to want to do, and it'll be a lot of logistics to get there. It's best, in general, I give vacation advice. Always go to fewer places than you think. You will be a much happier person. This is not applied to everyone, but almost everyone. You will be far happier. It will cost you less. You'll be more relaxed, and you will have better memories. You'll get better pictures. You'll have more fun. You'll do more activities if you go fewer places. If you're constantly hopping and moving from place to place and spending all of your time packing, unpacking, getting in a car, getting out of a car, you're gonna burn yourself out or waste your time on the things that are just the mechanics of being on vacation and not the actual vacation. If you find 1 or 2 beaches that you like, okay, Las Bonitas, we love it. We highly recommend it. But you could easily say, well, okay, I'm going to do Las Bonitas because Scott said, but I also want another beach experience. Well, San Juan del Sur is probably your choice. Having 2 completely different beaches that are a long way from each other, that kind of makes sense. Well, once you're bothering to get in the car, you might as well go the 4 hours to San Juan and get something that feels different, looks different, acts different, and will make for a different story, right? Different activities to do. You're not going to do the same things. Everything's different. The kind of fish that are there is different, right? Even if all you're going to do is sit and fish, you could go between those 2. But if you go from here to Ponaloya and you're like, I went to a different beach, yeah, the trees that you're looking at changed, but you're catching the same fish, having the same waves, whatever. So I really think if you're coming for a vacation, you really want to limit how much you're going from beach to beach. If you say, well, but I'm doing it from city to city, I want to see Granada, I want to see Leon, I want to see Managua, I want to see, that's a bit different, far easier, and it's much more point to point. And the impact of the moving will be lower. And when you're going from city to city, you're typically going because, there's like different restaurants, there's a different club scene, there's different museums, there's different colonial architecture, there's a different shopping experience. All those things are like very discrete. But when you're going from beach to beach, The variances on things are very small. Yes, the sand will change slightly, the waves will change slightly, the sunset view will change slightly, but the restaurants are going to be a lot of cookie cutter restaurants over and over and over again. The activities, the surf instructors, the taking a walk in the woods, the riding in a boat around the estuary, those things are going to repeat over and over again for the most part. And really quickly, you're going to be like, oh, we're doing the same things, just in a different place. But if you were back home in the United States and you said, we went to check out a walk in the woods here, and then we went 30 minutes away, but drove hours out of our way all the way around the county and came into it from the other side to see the same thing from down there, you go, oh wait, that's not even like a different thing. That could be one park, just two sides of one park. And in fact, that happens here. If you go and do the estuary tour from Las Piñatas, and then you drive 1 to 2 hours away to Salinas Grandes and do the estuary tour, it's the same estuary and you're right next to each other. By water, they basically touch, but by land, they might as well be in different universes. That kind of stuff can be a really big deal as to why it doesn't necessarily make sense to do that. I recommend relaxing, pick 1 or 2 or at most 3 places that you really want to try out and stick to that for maximum enjoyment, because it's going to give you the best vacation experience. And if you just fall in love with the beaches and you can't stand not seeing more of them, come back, spend more time, pick different beaches to base out of and expand your reach that way. Thanks for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to help support the channel in a very tangible way, you can buy me a coffee at the link above, buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. Thank you so much to all of my sponsors. It makes so much of a difference and means so much to me that people care so much about the show and that they find this content, this format useful and meaningful to them. If you're looking for help with relocation, or you're looking for private tours, or just a phone consultation to talk about what your plans may be, and it could be business related as well, hit us up, info@relocatenicaragua.com. That'll be on the top of the screen as well. As always, like, subscribe, share with your friends, tell your family, put this link on social media, let people know about the show, and I will see all of you tomorrow.